Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished checking the last power cable. The storm outside was getting worse by the hour. Wind howled around the small research station like a hungry beast. Snow piled up against the metal walls, making strange scratching sounds that put Jake on edge. He had been alone on Arcturus 7 for 3 weeks now. The other scientists had left before the big storm hit. They would return when the weather cleared, probably in another month. Jake volunteered to stay behind to keep the station running. Someone had to watch the equipment and make sure nothing broke down in the cold. The station sat on the frozen surface of Kepler 442c, a moon that orbited a gas giant far from Earth. It was humanity's first real home away from home in space. The moon was covered in ice and snow, with temperatures that could freeze a person solid in minutes without proper protection. Jake walked to the main window and looked out at the white wasteland. The storm made it impossible to see more than a few feet. Ice crystals hit the glass like tiny bullets. He shivered despite the warm air inside the station. A cup of hot coffee waited for him on the desk. Jake picked it up and took a long drink. The warm liquid felt good going down his throat. He had been working for 12 hours straight, fixing broken sensors and replacing worn-out parts. Tomorrow, he would need to go outside to check the weather monitoring equipment. He was not looking forward to that. Jake sat down at his computer and started typing his daily report. Everything was working fine. The power systems were stable. The life support was functioning normally. The communication array was sending signals back to Earth every 6 hours. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. A loud bang came from somewhere near the front of the station. Jake stopped typing and listened. The wind often made noise against the building, but this sounded different. It sounded like something had hit the outer door. He waited for a few minutes, but heard nothing else. Jake went back to his report. Probably just debris blown by the wind. Or maybe a piece of ice fell from the roof. Bang, bang, bang. This time the sound was clearly coming from the main airlock. Jake stood up and walked toward the entrance area. Through the small window in the door, he could see nothing but swirling snow. The banging continued, steady and rhythmic. Something was definitely out there. Jake put on his heavy coat and boots. He checked the airlock controls on the wall panel. Everything looked normal. The outer door was sealed tight. The pressure readings were good. Whatever was outside would have to wait until the storm passed. Opening the door now would be dangerous. The banging stopped suddenly. Jake waited by the controls, listening. Minutes passed in silence except for the wind. Maybe whatever it was had given up and gone away. Then he heard a new sound. Scratching. Something was clawing at the metal door. The scratches were long and deep, like fingernails on a chalkboard. Jake felt goosebumps rise on his arms. He moved to the small viewport and pressed his face against the cold glass. At first, he saw only white snow spinning in the wind. Then a shadow moved in the storm. Something large and dark was right outside the door. Jake stepped back from the window. His heart started beating faster. There were no large animals on this moon. The scientists had been studying the area for 2 years and found only small creatures that lived under the ice. Nothing big enough to make sounds like that. The scratching continued for several more minutes. Then everything went quiet again. Jake waited, holding his breath. The silence stretched on and on. Finally, he moved back to the viewport and looked out again. This time he saw something that made him gasp. 2 glowing eyes stared back at him through the swirling snow. They were yellow-green and definitely alive. They belonged to some kind of animal, but Jake had never seen anything like them before. The eyes moved closer to the glass. Jake could make out the shape of a large head. It looked like a wolf, but much bigger than any wolf he had ever seen. The fur was pure white, almost glowing in the storm. The creature's face was intelligent, almost human-like in its expression. The wolf looked directly at Jake through the window. Its eyes seemed to be trying to communicate something important. The animal moved its head slightly, and Jake saw something that made his blood run cold. The wolf was carrying something in its mouth. Something small and still. Jake pressed closer to the glass, trying to see better through the snow. The wolf turned its head and gently placed whatever it was carrying on the ground near the door. Then it picked up something else from the snow and placed it next to the first object. And then a third. The wolf sat back on its haunches and looked up at Jake again. Its eyes were pleading, desperate. Jake suddenly understood what he was seeing. The wolf was a mother, and those small shapes on the ground were her babies. Her pups. They were not moving. They lay in the snow like tiny statues, covered in frost. Jake realized they were frozen solid, or very close to it. The mother wolf had brought her dying children to the human station. Somehow knowing that the people inside might be able to help, Jake stared at the scene in amazement. How did the wolf know humans were here? How did she know to come to the door? And most importantly, how long did those pups have before it was too late to save them? The mother wolf continued to watch Jake through the window. She did not try to scratch at the door anymore. She just sat in the snow next to her frozen babies and waited. Her eyes never left Jake's face. Jake knew what he had to do. Every rule said he should not open the airlock during a storm. Every safety protocol told him to wait until the weather cleared. But those rules were written by people who had never seen a desperate mother begging for help to save her children. He moved to the airlock controls and placed his hand on the emergency override switch. The wolf seemed to sense what he was thinking. She picked up one of the pups gently in her mouth and moved closer to the door. Jake took a deep breath and pressed the button. The airlock began its cycle, and he prepared to meet his first alien neighbor. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss. Cold air rushed into the station, bringing with it swirls of snow and ice. Jake stepped back as the massive white wolf entered, moving carefully through the doorway. She was even bigger than he had thought. Standing almost as tall as his waist, the wolf looked around the station for a moment, then turned back to the open door. One by one, she picked up her 3 frozen pups and carried them inside. Each pup was about the size of a house cat, their small bodies stiff and covered with ice crystals. The wolf placed them gently on the warm floor near the heater. Jake quickly sealed the airlock behind them. The storm was getting worse outside, and he could not afford to lose heat from the station. The wolf watched him work, her intelligent yellow eyes following his every movement. When he finished, she made a soft whining sound and looked down at her babies. The pups lay motionless on the floor. Their fur was white like their mother's, but it looked different somehow. It seemed to shimmer and sparkle even in the dim light of the station. Jake knelt down beside them, being careful not to get too close to the mother wolf. He had no idea how she might react if she thought he was a threat to her children. Up close, Jake could see that the pups were not dead. Their small chests rose and fell very slowly, as if they were in some kind of deep sleep. Ice covered their bodies like a thin shell, but underneath he could see their skin was still pink and healthy looking. It was like they were frozen in time rather than frozen to death. The mother wolf nudged one of the pups with her nose, then looked up at Jake expectantly. She seemed to be asking him to do something, but Jake had no idea what. He was just a technician, not a doctor or a scientist. He fixed machines, not living creatures. Jake stood up and walked to the communication panel. He needed help, and he Needed it fast. Dr. Lisa Carter was the station's animal expert, but she was back on the main base, hundreds of miles away. The storm made flying impossible, but maybe she could talk him through what to do. It took several minutes to establish. Contact through the storm interference. Finally, Lisa's voice came through the speakers, crackling with static. "Jake? What's wrong? Your signal is breaking up. Lisa, I need your help. I have a situation here." "A big one? What kind of situation?" Jake looked at the wolf, who was still, watching him carefully. "I have a wolf in the station. A mother wolf with 3 frozen pups. She brought them here for help." There was silence on the other end for a long moment. "Jake, there are no wolves on Kepler for 42C. We've been studying this moon for 2 years. The largest animals we've found are about the size of mice. Well, there's one here now, and she's huge. Lisa, these pups are frozen solid, but they're still alive somehow. I think they're in some kind of suspended animation. I need to know how to help them. This is impossible, Jake. Are you sure you're not seeing things?" The isolation can play tricks on your mind. The wolf seemed to understand that. Jake was talking to someone who might help. She stood up and walked to the communication panel. Before Jake could stop her, she placed her paw on one of the buttons. Suddenly, a series of electronic beeps and chirps came through the speakers. "What was that?" Lisa asked. "That was the wolf." She just operated the radio. Another long silence. "Jake, I'm coming out there. The storm is too bad for flying, but I can take the ground transport. It will take me about 6 hours to reach you. Lisa, I don't think these pups have 6 hours. They're barely breathing. Okay, listen carefully. First, you need to warm them up slowly. Not too fast, or you could damage their cells. Use the medical scanner to check their body temperature every few minutes. And Jake, whatever you do, don't let the mother out of your sight. If she's as intelligent as you say, she might try to help." Jake spent the next hour following Lisa's instructions. He placed the pups on heating pads set to low temperature. The mother wolf watched every move he made, occasionally making soft sounds that almost sounded like she was giving him advice. The medical scanner showed something strange. The pups' body temperature was far below what should have been fatal, but their cellular activity was still present. It was like their bodies had found a way to survive in a state between life and death. As Jake worked, he noticed something else. Unusual. The mother wolf seemed to understand the equipment he was using. When he reached for the medical scanner, she moved out of the way before he asked. When he needed to adjust the heating pads, she gently moved her pups to better positions, even. Stranger, the electronic equipment around the station began acting oddly. Lights flickered in patterns that seemed almost like communication. The radio crackled with sounds similar to what the wolf had made earlier. Jake began to wonder if the wolf was somehow affecting the electronics. After 2 hours, the first pup showed signs of improvement. The ice covering its body began to melt, and its breathing became more regular. The mother wolf made excited sounds and gently licked her baby's face. The pup's eyes fluttered open for a moment, revealing the same intelligent yellow color as its mother's. Jake felt a surge of hope. Maybe they could save all 3 pups. But as he watched the small creature, he realized something that made his mind reel. The pup was looking directly at him with an expression of understanding that seemed impossible for an animal so young. It was like the pup knew exactly what Jake had done to help it. The second pup began to wake up an hour later. This one was more active, trying to stand on shaky legs. The mother wolf helped it balance, making gentle sounds of encouragement. The pup looked around the station with curiosity. examining the human technology with what appeared to be scientific interest. By the time the third pup started to recover, Jake was convinced that he was dealing with something far more complex than simple animals. These creatures showed signs of intelligence that rivaled humans. They seemed to understand cause and effect, to recognize technology, and to communicate in ways that affected electronic equipment. The mother wolf approached Jake as he monitored the third pup's vital signs. She made a series of soft sounds, then walked to the communication panel. She placed her paw on the controls again, and this time the radio produced a clear signal. Not just noise, but patterns that sounded almost like language. Jake stared at the display screen as waves of electronic signals appeared. The patterns were complex and organized, definitely not random. The wolf was communicating, but in a way that used the station's electronics as a translator. Just then, headlights appeared outside the station windows. Lisa had arrived through the storm. Jake looked at the mother wolf and her 3 recovering pups, then back at the strange signals on his screen. He had a feeling that their quiet little research station was about to become the center of the most important discovery in human history. The wolf seemed to understand that more humans were coming. She gathered her pups closer to her and looked at Jake with an expression that seemed to say, "Thank you." Then she turned toward the door, as if she was ready to meet the newcomers and begin the next phase of whatever incredible plan had brought her to the human station in the first place. Dr. Lisa Carter stamped the snow off her boots as she entered the station. Her thick winter coat was covered in ice, and her face was red from the cold wind. She had driven through the worst storm in years to get here, and the trip had taken 8 hours instead of 6. Lisa stopped in her tracks when she saw the wolf family gathered near the heater. The mother wolf was even larger than Jake had described. Her 3 pups were now awake and moving around, playing with each other like normal young animals. But there was something in their eyes that made Lisa catch her breath. They looked at her with the same intelligence she had seen in dolphins and great apes back on Earth. "My God, Jake, they're beautiful," Lisa whispered. She moved slowly toward the animals, not wanting to frighten them. The mother wolf watched her approach, but did not seem afraid. Instead, she seemed to be studying Lisa, as if trying to decide whether this new human could be trusted. One of the pups, the smallest one, walked up to Lisa and sniffed her boots. It looked up at her face and made a soft chirping sound. Lisa knelt down carefully and held out her hand. The pup touched its nose to her fingers, then made more chirping sounds that seemed almost like speech. "Jake, have you noticed anything unusual about their behavior?" Lisa asked, not taking her eyes off the pup. "Unusual doesn't begin to cover it," Jake replied. He told Lisa about how the mother wolf had operated the radio controls and how the electronic equipment had been acting strange since they arrived. "I think they're trying to communicate with us through the machines." Lisa pulled out her portable scanner and began examining the pups. What she found made her hands shake with excitement. The animal's brain activity was unlike anything she had ever seen. The neural patterns were incredibly complex, showing signs of advanced thinking and problem-solving abilities. "These aren't just intelligent animals, Jake. Their brain structures are similar to humans in some ways, but also completely different. It's like they evolved intelligence along a totally separate path from anything on Earth." The mother wolf seemed to understand that Lisa was studying her children. She walked over to the communication panel and placed her paw on the controls again. This time, the electronic signals that came through the speakers were even clearer than before. Lisa rushed to her equipment bag and pulled out a signal analyzer. She connected it to the radio system and watched as patterns appeared on the screen. The signals were not random noise. They had structure, grammar, and meaning. It was a language, but one that used electromagnetic waves instead of sound. Jake, call Ryan Torres at the main base. We need someone who understands communication systems. This is bigger than we thought. It took an hour to establish contact with Ryan through the storm interference. When he finally connected to their system and saw the signal patterns, his voice came through the speakers filled with amazement. These patterns are incredible, Ryan said. They're using electromagnetic frequencies to create complex messages. It's like they have a natural ability to generate and control radio waves. Give me some time to analyze the data, and I might be able to create a translation program. While Ryan worked on decoding the signals, Lisa continued studying the wolf family. She noticed that the pups seemed to understand human technology instinctively. One of them figured out how to operate the food dispenser by watching Jake use it once. Another pup turned on the heating controls when it got cold, the mother. Wolf began showing Lisa and Jake around the station, as if she was giving them a tour. She stopped at each piece of equipment and made electromagnetic signals through the radio. It was like she was explaining what each machine did and how it worked. She's teaching us, Lisa realized. She understands our technology better than we understand hers. After 3 hours of analysis, Ryan made a breakthrough. His voice came through the speakers with barely controlled excitement. I've got it. I've decoded part of their language. Lisa, Jake, you need to sit down for this. The mother wolf seemed to know that the humans were about to understand her. She gathered her pups around her and sat facing the communication panel. She began making a long series of electromagnetic signals. Ryan's translation program converted the signals into words that appeared on the computer screen. Lisa read them aloud, her voice growing more amazed with each sentence. We are Fenrir. We are old. Our world is gone. Our people sleep in the cold between stars. We searched long for others who build and think and care for young ones. You are the first we found who have both knowledge and kindness. We bring gifts of memory from before your son was born. Lisa stared at the screen. Jake, she's saying they're from another star system. They're refugees from a dead world. The signals continued, and more text appeared. The mother wolf was telling them about an ancient civilization that had spread across many star systems thousands of years ago. The Fenrir had been explorers and scientists building great cities and traveling between worlds, but their sun had begun to die, sending out deadly radiation that killed everything on their planets. Most of the Fenrir had gone into a special kind of sleep, waiting in hidden places throughout the galaxy for someone to find them and wake them up. The pups aren't just her children, Lisa realized as she read more of the translation. They're carriers of genetic memories. Each one holds thousands of years of scientific knowledge from their civilization. The mother wolf, who they learned was named Luna, explained that she had been searching for years for a species advanced enough to help, but also caring enough to be trusted. She had watched human space exploration from a distance, studying their behavior and technology. She had chosen to approach Jake specifically because their long-range sensors had identified him as someone with both technical skills and natural compassion for other living creatures. The frozen state of her pups had been a desperate preservation technique, keeping their genetic memories safe until help could be found. Ryan's voice came through the speakers again. There's more coming through. She's sending coordinates now. Star maps showing the locations of other Fenrir survivors throughout the galaxy, the screen filled with stellar coordinates and navigation data. Luna was showing them where to find other sleeping Fenrir communities, each one holding different pieces of their ancient knowledge and technology, but the most amazing revelation came last. Luna transmitted images directly into their computer system, showing them what the Fenrir had looked like in their prime. The pictures revealed great cities that floated in space, ships that could travel faster than light, and technology that seemed almost magical. "She's offering to share all of this with us," Lisa whispered. "The accumulated knowledge of an entire galactic civilization. But only if we prove we can be trusted with it." Luna made one final transmission before stopping. The translation appeared. On the screen in simple, clear words, "Will you help us wake our sleeping families? Will you learn from us as we learn from you? Will you be our partners in building something new among the stars?" Jake looked at Lisa, then at Luna and her 3 remarkable pups. The small research station had become the meeting place for 2 species separated by thousands of light years and millions of years of evolution. The decision they made in the next few minutes would change the course of human history forever. Luna waited patiently for their answer, her intelligent eyes reflecting both hope and ancient wisdom. Her pups played quietly nearby, unaware that they carried the keys to technologies that could transform both species into something greater than either could become alone. The storm outside was finally beginning to calm, but Jake knew that the real adventure was just beginning. Jake stared at the screen showing Luna's question. The decision felt enormous. He was just a technician on a small research station, but somehow he was being asked to speak for all of humanity. Lisa stood beside him, equally amazed by what they had discovered. "We need to contact Earth Command," Lisa said quietly. "This is too big for us to decide alone." Luna seemed to understand their hesitation. She made soft electromagnetic signals that Ryan's translation program converted to text. "We do not ask you to speak for all humans. We ask only if you 3 will work with us. Trust grows slowly, like plants in spring. We start small and see what grows." Jake felt relief wash over him. Luna was not asking them to make decisions for everyone. She just wanted to begin working together to see if their 2 species could really help each other. "Yes," Jake said, looking directly at Luna. "We want to work with you." Luna's response came immediately through the radio. "Good. We begin now. My children need special care to unlock their memories safely. Your machines and our natural abilities must work together. Will you learn our way?" Over the next few days, Luna began teaching the humans how to combine their technology with Fenrir biological abilities. She showed them how her electromagnetic signals could control their equipment in ways they had never imagined. When she focused on the medical scanner, it began showing data that their most advanced instruments on Earth could not detect. The first major breakthrough came when Luna helped Jake modify the medical scanner to read the genetic memories in her Pups. The smallest pup, who Luna called Alpha, was ready to begin sharing his memories. But the process required perfect timing between human machines and Fenrir electromagnetic control. Jake positioned the scanner over Alpha while Luna placed her paws on the control panel. Together, they synchronized their actions. Luna's electromagnetic signals guided the scanner to exactly the right frequency, while Jake operated the human controls. The result was magical. Images began appearing on the screen, showing star maps more detailed than anything humans had ever created. Alpha's genetic memories contained the locations of habitable planets throughout the galaxy, along with information about the resources and life forms on each world. "This is incredible," Lisa whispered as she watched the data flow across multiple screens. "Alpha is showing us planets where humans could build new colonies. Worlds that would take us thousands of years to find on our own. But Alpha was just getting started." As Jake and Luna worked together, the young Fenrir began sharing memories of stellar engineering techniques. The images showed how the ancient Fenrir had built structures in space using materials harvested from asteroid belts and dead planets. Luna transmitted explanations alongside Alpha's memories, Your people build with metal and stone. Our people learn to build with energy and time. We show you how to make strong things from stardust and light. The second pup, Beta, was ready to share her memories a few days later. Her genetic archives contained something even more amazing: biological terraforming techniques that could transform dead worlds into living paradises in decades rather than centuries. Working together, Jake modified the environmental controls, while Luna guided Beta's memory sharing. The screens filled with images of Fenrir scientists seeding barren planets with specially designed organisms that could survive in harsh conditions and gradually transform the atmosphere. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to one of the displays. They could take a planet like Mars and make it completely livable in just 50 years. The organisms they created worked together like a giant biological machine. Beta's memories also contained medical knowledge that stunned the human scientists. The Fenrir had developed treatments that could repair almost any injury or disease by working with the body's natural healing processes rather than fighting against them. Ryan's voice came through the communication system with excitement. The medical data Beta is sharing could eliminate most human diseases. Cancer, aging, genetic disorders. The Fenrir found ways to fix all of them using natural biological processes. The third pup, Gamma, carried the cultural and philosophical knowledge of the Fenrir civilization. When his memories began to unlock, they revealed something that changed how the humans thought about intelligence and consciousness. The Fenrir had discovered that all truly intelligent species developed similar values: curiosity about the universe, care for their young, and the desire to create rather than destroy. They had spent thousands of years searching for other species that shared these values. "We tested many species across many worlds," Luna explained through her electromagnetic signals. "Most were too aggressive or too selfish. Some were intelligent, but did not care for others. You humans are the first we found who have both the wisdom to learn and the kindness to be trusted." As the days passed, the cooperation between humans and Fenrir grew stronger. Jake found that he could sense Luna's electromagnetic signals even without the radio equipment. Lisa discovered that she could understand the pups' chirping sounds as if they were speaking in her own language. Most amazing of all, the technology in the station began evolving. The combination of human engineering and Fenrir electromagnetic abilities created new capabilities that neither species could achieve alone. The medical scanners could now detect problems at the cellular level. The communication system could reach across vast distances instantaneously. Luna revealed that this was exactly what the ancient Fenrir had hoped for. Two different kinds of intelligence working together create something new. Your logical thinking and our intuitive understanding combined to make discoveries neither could make alone. The pups were growing stronger every day, and their personalities were beginning to show. Alpha was curious about everything, always exploring new parts of the station. Beta was nurturing, often trying to take care of the humans by bringing them food or adjusting the temperature controls. Gamma was thoughtful, spending long periods studying human books and electronic files, but the most remarkable development was how the pups seemed to be learning human technology as fast as the humans were learning Fenrir abilities. Alpha figured out how to operate the computer keyboard by watching Jake type. Beta learned to use the food synthesizer to create new combinations of nutrients. Gamma discovered how to access Earth's internet through the communication system and began reading human history and literature. Luna watched her children's progress with pride, but also with concern. She transmitted a serious message to the humans. "My children learn fast, but they are still young. The full memories of our people are powerful and sometimes dangerous. We must be very careful as they grow stronger." Jake understood her worry. The genetic memories contained the knowledge of an entire galactic civilization, including technologies that could be used for both creation and destruction. The partnership between humans and Fenrir would need to be built on absolute trust and mutual respect. As Jake watched Alpha, Beta, and Gamma playing together near the heater, he realized that these three small creatures carried the keys to humanity's future among the stars. But more than that, they represented the beginning of something completely new, the first truly symbiotic relationship between two intelligent species. Luna approached Jake as he stood watching her children. She made soft electromagnetic signals. That appeared as text on the nearest screen. "Thank you for saving my babies." "Now we save each other." Jake placed his hand gently on Luna's head, feeling the slight tingle of her electromagnetic field. "We're family now," he said quietly. "And families take care of each other." Outside the station, the storm had finally ended. The sky was clear for the first time in weeks, revealing the brilliant stars of the Tau Ceti system. Jake looked up at those distant suns and smiled, knowing that soon humans and Fenrir would be traveling to those stars together as partners in the greatest adventure either species had ever begun. 3 weeks had passed since Luna first brought her frozen pups to the station. The small research facility had been transformed into something that looked like it came from a science fiction movie. Human technology and Fenrir abilities had merged. In ways that seemed impossible, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma were now fully awake and active. Each pup had grown larger and stronger, about the size of adult Earth wolves. But their intelligence had grown even faster than their bodies. They could operate any piece of equipment in the station. Just by watching humans use it once, Jake stood in what used to be the main laboratory, watching Alpha work with the stellar navigation computer. The young Fenrir was not just using the machine, he was improving it. His electromagnetic abilities allowed him to access data pathways that human programmers had never discovered. "Look at this, Jake," Lisa called from across the room. She was working with Beta on a biological analysis that should have taken weeks to complete. Instead, Beta's natural understanding of living systems had compressed the work into just a few hours. Gamma approached Jake with something remarkable. The thoughtful pup had been studying human philosophy and science for days. Now he was ready to share something important from his genetic memories. He placed his paw on Jake's hand, and suddenly Jake's mind filled with images. He saw the Fenrir civilization at its height thousands of years ago. Great cities floated in the void between stars, powered by energy drawn directly from the cosmic background radiation that filled all of space. Ships the size of small moons traveled between galaxies in minutes rather than millennia, but the most amazing thing Gamma showed him was how the Fenrir had developed their abilities. They had not started out as electromagnetic beings. Through careful evolution over millions of years, they had learned to merge their biological consciousness with the natural energy fields that exist throughout the universe. They became part of the universe itself, Jake whispered, understanding flooding through him. That's how they can survive in space, how they can communicate across vast distances, how they can control our electronics. Luna approached as Jake absorbed Gamma's memories. She placed her paw on the communication panel and transmitted a message that appeared on every screen in the station simultaneously. "Now you understand why we chose your species. Humans are ready for the next step in evolution. Not just biological evolution, but consciousness evolution, Doctor." Lisa Carter looked up from her work with Beta, her eyes wide with realization. "You're saying humans can develop these abilities too?" Luna's response came immediately. "All intelligent species can learn to merge with universal energy fields. But most choose power over wisdom. They destroy themselves before they learn. Humans are different. You value cooperation and growth over domination. Alpha stopped his work with the navigation computer and walked over to Jake. The young Fenrir made soft electromagnetic signals that the translation system converted to text. I want to show you something special. Something we have been saving for when we were sure you could be trusted. What Alpha showed them next changed everything. Hidden in his genetic memories were the locations of more than just sleeping Fenrir survivors. He revealed the coordinates of ancient technology caches hidden throughout the galaxy, vast libraries and workshops left behind by the Fenrir civilization. The images that flowed across the station's screens showed incredible things. There were archives containing the complete history of galactic evolution over billions of years. There were workshops where matter itself could be reshaped at the atomic level. Most importantly, there were training facilities where young species could learn to develop the same cosmic consciousness that the Fenrir had achieved. These places are waiting for species ready to learn. Beta transmitted through her electromagnetic signals. The ancient Fenrir built them as gifts for whoever came next. We are the guardians who decide when a species is ready. Ryan's voice crackled through the communication system from the main base. He had been monitoring their transmissions and was nearly speechless with excitement. Are you saying there are actual schools out there? Places where humans could learn to do what the Fenrir do. Gamma approached the communication panel and transmitted directly to Ryan. Not schools like you understand them. These are places where consciousness itself can be expanded, where the barriers between mind and universe dissolve, where beings learn to think with the cosmos itself, but the greatest revelation was still to come. Luna gathered all her children around her and began transmitting the most important message of all. The images that appeared on the screens showed something that made the humans gasp in wonder. Other species throughout the galaxy were also awakening. The Fenrir had been making contact with civilizations across hundreds of star systems. Earth was not alone in reaching this crucial point in evolution. Dozens of other intelligent species were ready to take the next step toward cosmic consciousness. A great awakening is beginning. Luna transmitted. Many species are ready to join together, to share knowledge and grow beyond what any single world could achieve alone. This is why we searched so long for you. Humans will be important partners in what comes next. The screens filled with images of other alien species, some that looked like living crystals, others that seemed to be made of pure energy, and still others that defied any description. All of them had reached the same level of development as humans and were ready to join the growing galactic community. Alpha transmitted excitedly. I can sense them across the stars. Other young ones like us, awakening on worlds far away. We are all connected through the cosmic field. Soon we will meet them. Jake felt his mind reeling as he tried to process everything he was learning. Humanity was not just making contact with one alien species. They were being invited to join a cosmic community of awakened civilizations. The small research station on a frozen moon had become the first embassy for galactic citizenship, but Luna transmitted one more crucial piece of information. The awakening must happen slowly and carefully. Your species is not all ready for this knowledge. Some humans would use it for war rather than growth. We must choose our partners wisely and train them properly. She showed them images of human government and military leaders, along with assessments of which ones could be trusted with cosmic consciousness technologies. The Fenrir had been studying human society for years, identifying individuals who had the wisdom and compassion needed for galactic citizenship. You three were chosen because you have the right hearts. Luna transmitted to Jake, Lisa, and Ryan. You will help us decide which other humans are ready to learn. Together, we will build a bridge between your world and the greater galaxy. Beta approached Lisa and transmitted a personal message. I want to stay with you and learn more about human medical knowledge. You can teach me about human bodies while I teach you about cosmic healing. We can create new ways to help both our species. Alpha sent a similar message to Jake. I want to learn about human engineering and space travel. Together, we can build ships that travel faster than light and cities that float between stars. Gamma walked to the communication panel and sent a message to Ryan. I want to study human culture and philosophy. There is much wisdom in your species that even the ancient Fenrir never discovered. We can learn from each other. Jake looked around. The transformed station, then at Luna and her remarkable children. A month ago, he had been a lonely technician maintaining equipment on a frozen moon. Now he was humanity's first ambassador to a galactic community of awakened civilizations. Luna made one final transmission as the day ended. The real work begins now. We must prepare Earth for what is coming. Other Fenrir mothers are already traveling to human outposts throughout your solar system. Soon there will be many partnerships like ours. The next phase of human evolution is about to begin outside the station windows. The stars seemed brighter than they had ever been before. Jake realized that was because he was beginning to see them the way the Fenrir did, not as distant points of light, but as homes to countless awakened civilizations waiting to welcome humanity into their cosmic family. The frozen pups who had nearly died in a blizzard were now the key to humanity's greatest adventure. And it was only the beginning. 6 months had passed since Luna first brought her frozen pups to Jake's research station. The small facility on Kepler 442c had grown into something that would have seemed impossible before the Fenrir arrived. New buildings stretched across the icy landscape, their walls glowing with a soft light that came from the fusion of human technology and Fenrir energy manipulation. Jake stood in the main observation deck of what was now called the First Contact Research Center. Through the wide windows, he could see human children and young Fenrir playing together in the snow outside. The sight still amazed him every time he saw it. The children had been born on nearby human colonies and brought here with their families. When word of the Fenrir partnership spread throughout human space, what nobody had expected was how quickly the human children bonded with the young Fenrir. It was as if they were meant to be together. Jake, you need to see this, Lisa called from her laboratory. She had been promoted to director of interspecies medical research and spent her days working with Beta and other newly awakened Fenrir to develop revolutionary treatments. Jake walked to Lisa's lab and found her standing over a medical scanner with Beta and a 5-year-old human girl named Emma. The child had been born with a rare genetic condition that should have left her unable to walk. But after 3 months of treatment using combined human and Fenrir techniques, she was running around the facility. Like any healthy child, the cellular repair is complete, Lisa explained, pointing to the scanner display. Beta's electromagnetic healing abilities, combined with our medical technology, have completely corrected Emma's genetic defect. Not just treated it, actually fixed it at the DNA level. Beta made soft chirping sounds that the translation system converted to text. Emma's cells remember how to be healthy now. The healing will last her whole life and can be passed to her children. Her family line is stronger now. This was just one of hundreds of medical breakthroughs that had emerged from the human-Fenrir partnership. Diseases that had plagued humanity for thousands of years were being eliminated one by one. More importantly, humans were learning to heal themselves using techniques that worked with their natural biology rather than fighting against it. Alpha appeared in the doorway, now fully grown and standing as tall as Jake's shoulder. The first pup to awaken had become the leader of the young Fenrir on the station. Behind him walked Ryan Torres, who had been appointed as Director of Interspecies Communication. Jake "We're receiving signals from the outer system," Ryan announced with excitement. 17 more Fenrir ships have arrived, each carrying sleeping survivors and requesting permission to land at human outposts. This had been happening regularly for months. As word of the successful partnership spread through the Fenrir's electromagnetic communication network, more and more survivor groups had emerged from their hidden sleep chambers throughout human space. Each group brought new knowledge and new opportunities for cooperation. Alpha transmitted through the communication system. "My cousins bring gifts of starship building and planetary engineering. They have been sleeping near your home system for 50 of your years, waiting for the right moment to make contact." Jake smiled as he remembered how overwhelming it had felt 6 months ago to meet just Luna and her 3 pups. Now, the facility housed over 100 Fenrir of different ages, each working with human partners on projects that were transforming both species. Gamma approached the group, followed by a human teenager named Marcus, who had been born on Mars. The boy had shown an unusual ability to understand Fenrir electromagnetic communication without any technological assistance. He was one of dozens of human children who seemed to be developing natural abilities similar to the Fenrir. "Mr. Jake," Marcus said, his eyes bright with excitement, "Gamma has been showing me the memory archives. There are whole star systems out there where humans and other species are already working together. We're not the first ones to make this kind of partnership." Gamma transmitted his thoughts through the nearest screen. "The boy speaks truth. The Great Awakening happens across many worlds simultaneously. Your species and mine are part of something that spans the entire galaxy. Soon we will travel to meet our new family members among the stars." That evening, Jake found himself in the facility's new communal dining hall, sharing a meal with an extraordinary gathering. Human families sat alongside Fenrir packs, eating food that had been prepared using techniques from both cultures. Children of both species played together, communicating in a mixture of human speech and Fenrir electromagnetic signals. Luna approached Jake's table with her mate, Storm, a magnificent Fenrir who had awakened from a sleep chamber discovered on Europa. Their new litter of pups tumbled around their feet, playing with human children who giggled at their antics. "The children adapt faster than the adults," Luna transmitted through a small communication device she wore like a collar. "They do not have old fears to overcome. They simply accept that different species can be family." Jake watched as Emma, the little girl whose genetic condition had been healed, carefully fed pieces of fruit to one of Luna's newest pups. The pup licked her fingers and made happy chirping sounds. Nearby, Marcus was teaching a group of young Fenrir how to play a human game called hide and seek. Storm transmitted his own message. "On our old worlds, before the great dying, we dreamed that someday we would find others to share the universe with. These children show us that the dream was not lost. It only waited for the right time to bloom." Dr. Carter joined their table, carrying a data pad filled with the day's research results. "The latest genetic analysis shows something remarkable," she announced. "The human children who work closely with young Fenrir are developing new neural pathways that allow them to sense electromagnetic fields naturally. And the young Fenrir who spend time with humans are becoming better at logical problem solving, evolution." "In real time," Jake mused. "Both species are changing because of their contact with each other." Alpha bounded over to their table with his own exciting news. "The new starship designs are ready for testing. By combining human engineering with Fenrir energy manipulation, we have created vessels that can travel between star systems in days rather than years." This was perhaps the most important breakthrough of all. The ancient Fenrir had possessed faster-than-light travel, but their technology had been lost when their civilization collapsed. By working with human engineers, the awakened Fenrir were Rediscovering and improving upon their ancestors' achievements, Beta approached the table carrying a small Fenrir pup who had been injured while playing. As Jake watched, she placed her paws gently on the pup's injured leg and focused her electromagnetic abilities. The injury healed completely in just a few seconds, leaving no trace that it had ever existed. Your people call it magic, Beta transmitted with amusement. We call it understanding how life energy flows through all living things. Soon human doctors will learn to do the same. As the evening continued, Jake found himself thinking about how much had changed since that stormy night when Luna first appeared at his door. The lonely research station had become a thriving community where two species were learning to become something greater than either could achieve alone. Gamma brought over a communication device showing a holographic star map. Dozens of points of light pulsed with different colors, each representing a star system where human-alien partnerships were developing. Tomorrow we begin the next phase, Gamma transmitted. Ships will carry mixed crews of humans and Fenrir too. Establish new research centers on distant worlds. Children of both species will grow up among the stars. Learning from dozens of different alien cultures, Jake looked around the dining hall one more time, watching humans and Fenrir sharing food. Stories and laughter. Outside the windows, the stars of the Tau Ceti system glowed like beacons calling them to adventure. Luna made one final transmission as the evening ended. You saved 3 small pups from freezing in a storm. Those pups have become the bridge between species, between worlds, between the past and the future. The grateful mother wolves throughout the galaxy sing your name in frequencies only we can hear. Jake smiled and gently scratched behind Luna's ears, feeling the warm tingle of her electromagnetic field. We're all family now, he said quietly. And this family is about to become very, very large through the dining hall windows, the lights of incoming Fenrir ships could be seen descending toward the human outposts scattered throughout the system. Each ship carried more sleeping survivors, more ancient knowledge, and more opportunities for the growing alliance between species. The frozen pups who had once seemed doomed had become the foundation for humanity's greatest adventure. As Jake watched the children of both species playing together under the alien stars, he knew that the universe would never be the same. The age of isolation was ending, and the age of galactic community was about to begin, and it had all started with one desperate mother wolf bringing her babies to a lonely human technician during the worst storm in years. Sometimes the most incredible journeys begin with the simplest acts of compassion.